thank you so much for joining us. I'm Heather with Get Me Some Green Apothecary, and with me today I have Daniel Ancheta, who's doing a promotion or a presentation for us talking about breathing and movement. As we get older, we all spend a lot of times doing one thing, and that's sitting on our asses. So Daniel's going to talk to us about how we can start getting movement in our lives, even though a lot of our jobs revolve around sitting behind a desk. Daniel owns EdgePerformance Gym and is a wonderful resource. So without further ado, Daniel, I'll give you the floor.
All right, excellent, thank you. So today I just wanted to go through a few different things. A lot of people have some misconceptions, one about fitness, about movement, about getting fit from the very beginning if they haven't trained in the past. So I just want to go over some basic understandings as far as movement, as far as staying healthy. One of the things that coaches, that trainers say pretty often is that first you just have to move. This past year, especially going into the summer, we have a lot of people who are excited. They think, oh, it's bathing suit season, I have to get in shape. And they'll go out and they'll start running, they'll do some sort of exercise routine that they might have gotten out of a magazine, and they'll end up being very, very sore, and they might go through, they hurt themselves, and then they kind of give up on working out or training for at least a few more months. And what I want to kind of introduce today is this idea that we don't have to start there. We don't have to just go, balls to the wall, just to get in shape. There's a really progressive way to do this, and a safe way and a smart way to do this. And especially as we all get older, it becomes more important to do everything safely and more effectively. So the first thing that I want to kind of introduce, and the idea that I want to introduce, is that, and this is part of our training philosophy at Edge, is that as human beings, our bodies know how to move correctly. But what happens is as we go through our lives, we develop bad habits, whether it's sitting too much, which happens at a very young age actually, sitting too much, not moving enough, and as we start to slow down, as we start to stop moving, as we are in school sitting more often, as we're in work sitting, we drive everywhere, what starts to happen is our body starts to lose the ability to move correctly. You start losing the ranges of motion. One of the things that you hear a lot is if you don't use it, you lose it. And it's very common that as adults, what happens is, through our normal habits, we stop being as active, we stop moving through certain ranges of motion. I've worked with plenty of adults, young adults, in their mid to late 20s, just getting into the workforce. And when I ask them to reach straight up above their head, they do this. They don't do this anymore because they've stopped really reaching here. And this is actually one of the first ranges of motions we lose. So again, really important to understand that movement, it becomes so important. So we'll hear a lot of times, you'll hear a lot of times people, just stop moving in one direction, stop using things, and it is that exact thing. What happens is if you stop using this range of motion, what happens is that our articulating cartilage stops getting lubricated, stops being able to regenerate, and you stop being able to reach straight up or overhead. So pretty common thing that happens in our shoulders, that happens in our joints. When people have lower back issues, that's a lot of times it's because of immobility in the hips. A lot of times when we hurt ourselves, hurt our necks, hurt our upper backs, hurt our cervical spine, it's because we lack mobility in our shoulders. So that's why it becomes so important to keep moving. It doesn't have to be the most intense exercise. In fact, it should start off as a type of exercise that is relatively low intensity. That's why getting an assessment done by a qualified trainer, by someone, is so important, because if they don't know exactly where to start you, then they might, if you jump right into a workout, that's when injuries can happen, that's when problems can happen. So that's why I just wanted to preface everything with that. And so where I like to start with movement is, I know we have a few mothers in the house, so I'm going to kind of go
you
through
can pick
this.
on me.
No. What I would ask you is, I know your kids are a little bit older now, so do y'all remember when the kids were babies, right? And their first movement? Okay, so
On the hip.
Yeah, on the hip. So, but I want you to think about is how did those babies start moving? Okay, so the first thing they did, obviously when they're born, is they start breathing. right?
Right.
So why is breathing so important? It's the first involuntary thing we do, and if you ever watch babies breathing, what do you see? If they're lying on their back, what backs, what do you see them? Their bellies are raising up and down. If they're laying on their stomachs, you see their lower backs raising up and down. So why that's so important is because that means that they're breathing diaphragmatically, reflexively. They're breathing deep into their belly. They're really filling their lungs. That's the only way babies know how to breathe. In fact, a lot of physicians will say if you don't see the baby breathing that way through their nose diaphragmatically, there's probably something wrong. So that's why it's so important to breathe correctly, breathe that way. And so that's how we're learning it. That's actually the first step in moving, is breathing correctly. The next thing they do is once they become, their eyes, open their eyes, they start wanting to move around, they start trying to pick their head up. Okay, so this movement, this idea of picking their head up, tucking their chin, they're breathing and they're starting to understand how their head moves, and they understand how movement is starting. Okay, and what happens is, again, they're actually exerting themselves while they're breathing. So that's the first, what we call loaded breathing. That's the first time when you actually have to do something while you're breathing at the same time. So that breath work. So, and then the next thing they do is, as you all know, kids get tired of laying on their back and looking up and stuff, and so they start wanting to get up and they start rolling back and forth. And rolling is so important because it starts challenging and working with the vestibular system, or our inner ear, our equilibrium, and we start understanding how to sit up, and they want to get up, they want to actually be in a horizontal plane. And then rocking, once they do get on their fronts and they put their hands down, their knees down, they start rock. You see them, they rock back and forth over and over again before they actually start crawling. Right. That's actually our body's ability to start loading our hips. That's the first time we actually learn how to squat. So when we start rocking back and forth, we're starting to understand, hey, this is where our power comes from, this is where our balance is, this is how we move. So we go from rocking, and then the next thing they know, obviously, they start crawling. Now, have you ever heard that, now they're all professing that you let your kid crawl as long as they possibly can, and you don't want them to jump up onto their feet too soon. And one of the reasons they're starting to profess that a little more often is because what happens when we crawl, and it's the same thing that happens when we walk. When you walk, what's that?
I got you a mat just in case.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
It's a mat.
Okay, but when we walk, how do we walk? We walk opposing here, right?
Right.
Ever try walking like this? It doesn't feel right at all. All right.
I can't.
Right. So, and that's how we run. That's how we do everything athletic. And if you watch babies crawl, that's exactly how they crawl. Okay. So, if you think about it, what the hemisphere of your brain that controls your left hand is the opposite side, the right side, right? And what controls my right leg is my left hemisphere. Okay, so if you think about it, when we're crawling, we use opposites. Our opposite arm, our opposite limbs move. So as a baby, just again, learning all new types of stimulus, learning how to use their bodies, those neural connections between the hemispheres of your brain are starting to be developed. They found relatively anecdotally, and it's starting to become more obvious, that kids that spend more time crawling end up having a little bit better, more athleticism, more coordination, because those coordinations, that the neural pathways that happen through what's called the corpus callosum, those signals are built up a little bit more so. So that's a big part of how we move.
She got up and walked on her first birthday.
Yeah, there's exceptions. I walked pretty early. I ended up being somewhat athletic, so it worked out. But
no, but what you're saying is true. She walked on her first birthday. She's way more athletic than my son, who started walking at 9 months.
Yeah.
He just got up and walked across the floor.
So it allows. Now, and again, why am I going through all this? It's how we all learned as humans to move. It's exactly the process that we all went through, barring any type of issue, any type of neurological issue or developmental issue. All of us learned how to move this way. Exactly. Me,
There's
you,
no magic.
LeBron James, Michael Jordan, we all learned to move the same way. But the great thing is, as we start to, we do in our exercise program, and part of our assessment as we take everybody through this is, it's exactly these movements that we reintroduce to everybody, no matter what age, no matter what, from 10 to 75 to 80, it doesn't matter. If we reintroduce these movements, you start finding that people move better. their body starts to remember how to move correctly. So, you know, and again, I've taken Heather through this, I've taken through a number of people through this, where all of a sudden they're more flexible, they feel better, they're strong. You know, some pretty athletic people feel all of a sudden that they're stronger, and a lot of it has to do with reintroducing these movements. All of these are, and all these, this philosophy, you know, it's called original strength. We're starting to understand a little bit more. There's a number of different movements out there. There's a couple of very popular guys, Ido Portal, Movement, all have the basic idea that it's basic human movement that's important. I work with a number of physical therapists, and they're not comfortable referring to exercise specialists or personal trainers if you're not based in this type of idea that, you know, everything that we do is based off of very basic. It's from what we did as babies. It's nothing spectacular. It's nothing super special. It's just this ability to reintroduce some of these movements. So as we go through these things, like I said, every time I take somebody through an assessment like this, 99% of the time I get the response like, wow, I feel like I can really move. I feel a lot better. And it's really basic. And the great thing is anybody can do it. But no matter what condition you're in, I see your legs in a brace, you can still do it if you wanted to. That's okay. You can always do the things that aren't hurting you. But I always just find this is the easiest way for people to start moving. You know, everybody comes into me, they see me, they're a trainer, they're like, oh, are you gonna crush me today? I'm like, no, that's not how we do things anymore. It's a lot more specialized. We wanna find out exactly where you're starting so we can introduce you into a program that's appropriate. That's not gonna make it so you can't move for a few days, because what's gonna happen, you're not gonna wanna train anymore. You're gonna wanna stop for a few days, and that's not the idea. The idea is to keep you moving constantly, keep everything happening progressively. I think, you know, when we're younger, we feel like we have to go all out, we push super hard, and that's when those things happen. Even when you're younger, your body can handle that, but as we all get older, everything has to happen in much smaller increments, just at a consistent rate. You know, just get a little bit better every day, and that's where movement should come from. That's where progress should come from. That's how we can look at our exercise.
I think you're supposed to like dance.
I know, right?
Sorry about that.
That's all right. That's fine. That's all right. But
Noise from the peanut gallery.
that's all right. No big deal at all. So those are the main things as far as movement. And
Could you run through those again, please?
yeah,
So there's-
absolutely.
I want to make sure you said belly breathing is going to
Okay,
be a big one.
so everybody take a deep breath. Okay, so I saw most everybody show
I
do this.
just did that. I did
Okay,
that.
so what we're going to focus on is, I want you to put your hands on your stomach right here, and I want you to keep your shoulders and your neck and your chest all relaxed. And I want you to you're going to inhale, but you're going to push all that air into your belly. So it's going to look like this from here. You're going to keep your mouth closed, tongue at the roof of your mouth, in through your nose, out through your nose. So deep breath in. And just keep breathing like that for a minute. Just breathe. Keep those shoulders down and relax. It's a little tougher when you're sitting, but it still can happen very easily. So deep breath in, deep breath in. Just make sure your feet are set. Good. Now, if you're sitting, again, if we're sitting, we can still do it. Most importantly, and you'll hear this type of breathing is used very often in meditation and mindful breathing. Is from here, and again, shoulders, deep breath in. Now as you get more comfortable with it, try to do about 3 seconds in, about a half second hold, then 3 seconds out. And you keep breathing. Now this type of breathing, if we keep breathing this way, is exactly the type of breathing that you need to do if you want to lower stress levels. If you want to relax a little bit, you just keep breathing. Deep breath in and out. Again, it's just a nice rhythmic breathing. Again, when we breathe diaphragmatically, a few things happen physiologically. What happens is this stimulates our parasympathetic nervous system, which basically our rest and digest part of our nervous system, which kind of relaxes us, lowers stress, lowers cortisol, all of those things. When we breathe like this, which is exaggerated, but a lot of people I talk to, that it's just a normal breathing pattern. We're actually stimulating the opposite system, or the sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or naturally just raises our stress levels. So we don't want to stimulate that, unless it's necessary. But again, from here, when we're trying to relax, even when we're trying to exercise and exert ourselves, you want to breathe correctly, because again, that'll facilitate good movement. Okay, so that deep belly breath. Okay. The next thing would be, again, if I was laying on the floor, it would be our head mounts.
Come demonstrate.
Yeah, come for it.
Yeah, demonstrate. Ladies don't like to lay on floors on camera.
Alright. So go ahead and lay down. And now what I want you to do is we're going to go start from the beginning. So put your hands on your belly right there. Good. Alright, so in through your nose. And I want you to do is actually knees up. Put your feet flat on the floor. I'm asking him to do this because this keeps his lower back in a good position, allows his spine to be supported, and doesn't have that lower back arch. So deep belly breath in, and breathe out. Good. And deep belly breath in, and out. Good. Deep belly breath in, and out. Just relax. Now I'm going to explain a few things while he keeps breathing. Now, as he's breathing, what's also going to start to happen is, again, he's in a relaxed state, nice and smooth. People start seeing stuff like, oh my gosh, I'm ready to fall out. Again, very relaxed. This is actually a great way to get warmed up for movement, warmed up for exercise, because the muscles relax. They start to, they're not overly tense. A lot of people walk in and they're super tense. So just keep breathing.
That makes sense. That would prevent a lot of injury.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. People come in, like, whether they wake up in the morning or they get so tight, they're stiff, all these things. So, yeah, honestly, if people just started breathing on a regular basis and focusing on it, this makes all the difference in the world. Again, little things, not like huge, gigantic changes. It's a matter of, different types of the highly.
So we shouldn't come in and just start like powerlifting 200 pounds or anything like that.
But the idea of this is that once people start breathing, again, a certain type of relaxation happens. Again, for whatever reason, our bodies start to remember how to move correctly. So we just see a lot of these things happen. So next thing we're going to do is you're going to pick your head up. Imagine you got like a spot on your shirt, and you're looking down. Not like no, stay down. So stay down. So you're just picking your head up. So it's like you got something on your tie.
Like you're a baby.
Like you got something on your tie.
That's what he said, right?
Head up, yeah. Tuck it as much as you can. There you go. Hold it up there. Keep breathing now.
Look at your cleavage.
Yeah, breathe out. There you go. Deep belly breath in. There you go. And breathe out.
Oh, I can't do that. Deep belly though.
Good. And just relax for a second when you need to if your neck gets tired. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes people's necks get really tired on that because they're not used to holding up. So you can head up again for a little bit. Let's hold it about 5 or 6 breaths. Deep breath in. Deep breath in. Good. And again, this is loading the breathing pattern now, so this is actually a little bit work. Alright, good. And next what I want you to do is you're gonna sit up and go ahead and grab your knees. So this is a rolling. So what I'm going to do, and let your feet, don't cross your legs like that. There you go. And I want you to focus, look straight up at the ceiling right here. You're going to keep your back nice and round. You're going to roll back and roll back and forth. So roll back and come back up. And keep your eyes on the ceiling the whole time. Okay. Now, this is my...
keep your eyes on the ceiling.
Eyes on the ceiling, so just look straight up. Yeah, keep on. You're good.
Look up, look up, look up.
Yeah, very good.
Oh my gosh.
There you go. Keep rolling, keep rolling. Okay, so... while he keeps rolling, a couple of things that happen. We're working the vestibular system, our inner ear, our equilibrium, which is something that does not happen very often once we're in school. If you're not athletic, it's not something that you do. And even if you are athletic,
what are you saying, Daniel?
And even if you are athletic, we play all our sports from this upright range, right? Unless you're doing something like wrestling or something like tumbling, you're not, gymnastics. You're not upsetting that. Which honestly makes a lot of sense if you think about all the people once they hit their 60s, 70s, 80s who become fall risks because their equilibrium is not developed. They've basically lost that ability to right themselves or maintain balance. So stimulating the system is important because we want to keep that ability to be able to catch ourselves. We don't want to be a fall risk as we get older. And it's very simple. All we're doing is rolling backwards and forwards, keeping our eyes up. Okay? So the next set of movements we're going to do, so go in and get it. Face this way with your hand on your hands and knees. So good. All right, so knees about shoulder. There you go, perfect, right there. And go ahead and, yeah, that's perfect. All right, so your head is up. Good. And when I was talking about rocking earlier, what she's going to do is forward until your shoulders are, no, so keep your hands up. You're going to come forward. There you go. Come forward until your shoulders are over your fingertips, and back.
Ooh,
And you're just going to go forward and back, just like that. Nice.
Oh, I can feel that in the back.
Does that feel good?
There you go. Keep going.
It does. It stretches out the back
Just
right
keep going
there.
forward and back. And what I want you to do is just keep moving, nice and easy. Stay with is we want to stay. We do with things that our body allows our body to work, and just, but you know, if it feels good and you feel a stretch, that's one thing. But you don't ever want anything to hurt because that elicits a very tense reaction in your body. You know, everything locks up. So forward and back, nice and easy. Good. Good. Just keep that back flat. Good. Head up. Nice straight ahead. Good. 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 And forward and back. And as that starts to loosen up, Eric, I want you to move a little bit faster. So forward and back. And again, we're just taking through this motion, just a gradual motion. It doesn't have to be super fast.
Huh?
Probably his knee or his ankle.
That popping is my knee. Yep.
That's right. My knee pops endlessly now, but
Now you won't hear any popping.
yeah,
It's
just
a couple
just
times
back.
right off the bat, and then
And now you're
good.
Right.
And the back is loosened up a little bit too. So
So
those
again-
are my two big pain points: is the
And
knee
big
and the
thing
back.
that we also remember
So-
while we're doing this is we're still breathing diaphragmatically. We're still focusing on our breathing. That's the underlying thing, is to be able to move well and breathe continuously through all of this. Good. So this is the rocking back and forth. And again, 15, 20 reps. This doesn't have to be a super long, involved thing because it takes very little time. All right. And then the last thing I'm going to have Eric do is a crawl. So you're not going to need the mat for that. So go ahead, just slide over a little bit. All right. So go ahead and go down on your hands and knees. I won't have you on your knees for long. So just hands on your knees, hands and knees real quick.
Okay.
And then what I want you to do is get on your toes, and I want your knees to come off the ground just a little bit. There you go. Hips down,
Army
stay nice and
crawl.
low. And then I want you to crawl forward. Nice and small steps because you don't have a lot of room. And back. Now a little bit low, keep your hips down. The key is to keep your knees as close to the ground as you can. Here, I'm going to demonstrate.
Why do I feel like I'm at football practice?
Yeah, exactly, right? So if you watch, so the way I'm going to demonstrate is I'm on my knees here. And the great thing about this is from these positions is the slower we do it, the better. So this doesn't have to be fast or super intense. So if I'm moving like this,
Spider-Man.
yeah, real slow, smooth.
See, we need
Like
my
action.
son here. He's
Cat
Spider-Man
reflexes.
expert.
Nice and easy, all right? So try that, Eric. Try to do it really slow. You'll feel what this. Feel how the slowness, it actually makes it a little more intense. So nice and slow, small steps. So opposite arm, there you go.
Like Spider-Man.
Okay, so bring your feet back to even again. Okay, so when you move, get your knees just off the ground. Come forward a little bit more on your hands. Over there you go, right there. Stay low, 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 low. Yeah, you're gonna feel this. And now I want you to move your left hand and your right foot forward at the same time. There you go. Stay low. Stay low. There you go.
Spider-Man.
Good. And back. Good.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you feel that what happens with that movement is core activation happens. There's a lot of exertion that happens. This is actually a great way to warm up.
And loosening it up too. Like my back feels a little looser, and the knee is not cracking as much.
It's just little things like that you know, that's the idea that we want to promote, is that it doesn't take a ton of, you know, you don't have to jump right into a highly intense set of exercises to get results. In fact, you're not going to get results because odds are you're going to overdo it. But we want to start this way, you know, especially as we get into our 40s, 50s, 60s. This is a smart way to approach movement. So that's why I like these movements, because again, we went through those movements. Literally, that takes roughly 5 minutes to go. Very short, very easy, not super intense. It's something that you'll feel the difference in very quickly, and it doesn't take up a ton of your time. So it's something that's very easy to apply to your life. It's not like you have to, all right, I have to schedule this time to go see this person, and I have to do this.
Right.
When things are easy, accessible, and you feel the difference quickly, you tend to do them more. If things are inconvenient and you don't like them, you find more excuses to not do it. That's just the way it works. You'll rationalize, you know what, I got so much going on today. I'll pick it up later, and then you won't. So that's a great thing about this. Is it doesn't require any special equipment. It doesn't require any type of, it's so simple.
And what about rehab? So we have an injured foot here and a bad knee here. I felt something almost immediately, especially with the low back, just kind of stretching it out and doing
It's just movement. It's all a matter of movement. It's all a matter of just continuing to move. Most of the time, recovery requires you to move. That's why we have physical therapy. That's why they do it. But again, obviously, if you have a severe injury, you see a physical therapist, and they'll take you through a range of motion because they're qualified to do that. With this, if you don't have any outstanding severe injuries, or just maybe a little chronic soreness or stiffness, that's okay. A lot of times, just the movement will facilitate the better movement, facilitate recovery, that type of thing.
Yeah, I know when I messed up my knee and we did the physical therapy piece for the okay, balance on your leg. That was like the worst thing ever.
Oh, absolutely. And you'll see a lot of that. A lot of physical therapy. That's to just get it moving again. That's the key. Yeah. Because years and years and years ago, before physical therapy was much of a thing, it's a relatively new discipline. Before it was a thing, they just had you sit in bed until you felt better. Until you felt better, and then you stood up and tried to use that leg, and it was like it's stuck, and you didn't know your body didn't know how to move it anymore.
Right.
That's why that's the validity of physical therapy, of movement, of recovery, that type of thing. So, but again, we don't have to. Hopefully we don't get to that point. We get to the point where we're actually just moving on a regular basis and understanding how that movement can facilitate better movement health, and then then you'll be able to move into some sort of exercise. My other thing with exercise is that what I point out to everybody is really try to just find something active that you like to do. Maybe the weight room isn't your thing. Cool, I understand. I hate the weight room. I hate being in a weight room, but it's something that I had to do at one point. Maybe going for walks is your thing. Maybe going for hikes is your thing. Maybe riding a bike. That's great. Everybody's like, oh, what do I need to get in shape to start off? It's like, find something active that you like to do and just do it more often. Because you'll be a lot more light. It's just kind of works your way into it. Yes, Heather.
What does an assessment with you look like? Because I know a lot of our clients, when they come in, they're petrified to go to a physical therapist or get an assessment with a trainer, because they're like, it's going to cost $500. They're going to make me do a workout regimen where they want me to come to their gym 7 days a week. I can't do that, so they just they check out mentally. So I know you practice completely differently. What does an assessment with you look like?
So assessment at Edge and most of the gyms that I am affiliated with, it's basically just a movement screen where I take you through some basic movements. It's called a functional movement screen, where I get to see how your squat, your hip hinging, your deadlift movement, your flexibility, your core strength. We just try to figure out if there's any issues. I can't tell you how many times I had somebody in there who's seemingly healthy, and all of a sudden there's something's way off on their shoulders, and I'm like, wow, we can get that fixed, because if they try to work out on that, they can injure themselves. So we take them just through those motions to make sure that they're ready to work out. We don't say, all right, you're good to go, jump in and start doing lots of, pushing a sled or doing a lot of burpees. It's all right, let's see what first off, what you're capable of, and if you're okay to work out. You might be cleared by a physician, but again, we have to look at some things a little more in depth. So, and again, we do free assessments. We make sure that when people come in, they start to understand. All right, this is what's happening in my body. This is what I need if I want to. People have an end goal of I want to get in shape, and then we break it down and say, all right, well, this is the best route for you to go.
So when they do a free assessment with you, they're not just getting this cheap assessment. You're actually taking the time, and then you're sending them home with a plan of action, something that they can use immediately.
Right. And all these movements, the way we start with everybody with these movements, again, I explain it, I take them through it so they understand it, and then I say, I would love it if you did this every day. And then if they say, hey, how do I remember it? I say, well, here's my YouTube channel. Every one of the movements is explained out in detail, so just watch it. If you forget something, it's all of it's so simple, but if you again, they get that resource. And usually and then when people start off with us, we have a very low trial offer that lets people just try out what we offer, to try everything that we do, just to see that one, it's a good fit, and two, that there's a lot of value to it.
Awesome. Awesome. And then your workout program is customized to what their physical.
It's built around wherever they're starting. It's built around if they have weaknesses here, we will sub exercises in to make sure that we're correcting those things. If they have a nagging injury that they can work around. We have a lady who just came off of ACL, MCL surgery, so I talked to her physical therapist. And I said, all right, what are all the red flags? What can't she do? And they say, she can't do this, this, and this, but everything else she's fine. So she can continue to work out. She just had major knee surgery, but she can work out again.
But you're working with the physicians.
Absolutely.
Too.
Physical. We work with the
it's a
orthopedics.
whole course.
Orthopedics, physical therapists, chiropractors. We try to make sure that we always make sure that we're doing the best thing for our client. We're not just throwing them into a workout. We make sure. And with all my trainers, I set them down and say, all right, this person has this limitation, this limitation, this limitation. Everything else is good. Go from there, and we build our programs from that position. But again, it is very customized. And we like to work with people in small groups, 3 or 4 people, where the coach can always make sure they can see what's happening, keep everything safe, keep the movement and the form correct.
And then could you just let everyone know on Facebook and here how they can get in touch with you? And we'll of course tag you on Facebook
Absolutely.
as well.
Yeah. You can. The website is myedgecharlotte.com, and we are on Facebook. You'll see it. EdgePerformance Training. We're on Instagram, but the main way to find us is myedgecharlotte.com, or my email is dan@myedgecharlotte.com.
Awesome. Thank
All
you,
right.
Daniel. We really appreciate you coming
Thanks
out.
so much.
Thank you, everyone who tuned in on Facebook. We appreciate it. Make sure that you tune in every month. We have a different speaker every month, and please reach out to Daniel. He's a wonderful resource. Have a wonderful weekend.
Huh?